The Bernina stitch regulator. This possibly was one of the reasons you bought the Bernina 770 Quilters Edition, because it came with it. So if you're opening it for the very first time, you do have an instruction book. I'll show you everything that's in there. And you are going to have a variety of accessories in here. So go ahead and take out the foot. I have to say, I have been around since this came out. It has worked from day one and impressed everybody of its capabilities, and it's still untouchable by its technology and how easy it is to attach to the machine, use, and be comfortable with really quick. So I'm going to pull this out and then also take a look. There is two other accessories that come with it. So I've actually used this once before, so I've already switched out to the one that I prefer. The two other feet, so one of them that's on here is an open toe foot, and to change feet, you just go ahead and squeeze the little white buttons. There's one on each side here. Squeeze them and they just slide off and then click into place. So this is the one foot that came with on it when you opened your box originally. This is nice, meaning you can do all your free motion quilting and not accidentally get caught on any safety pins. So this is a good safe foot to use, but if you want to see where you're going, switch over to the open toe foot. So that's why I had this one on, because that's usually what I like to use. I do have to be careful. I mentioned those safety pins. If I'm coming around, I can hook it and catch it, and well, that can be a bad thing. There's also another item in here. This is kind of like almost a saucer shaped foot, and it will slip on just the same way. And there's a couple of things that this can be used for. It can be used for free motion quilting when you're echo quilting. See those lines there? You can actually be a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch as you echo quilt around a motif. And it's also good for higher loft batting. If you ever have something that's really poofy, almost like a comforter weight, this will help kind of push it down and kind of scoot it off to the side. So this is very handy to have as a foot in that collection. So let's go ahead and put that one on. All right, before I put this on, I am going to switch over to a straight stitch throat plate, also an accessory that was included with this machine. I've already lowered the feed dogs down, so with that, that means that we don't use them when they're up, and the machine will require that you lower them for free motion work, because it's going to know that this foot goes on. So if it's not low, if they have not lowered, you will be asked to lower them. So put the foot on first, just like normal. It does kind of lean off to the side a little bit, meaning more like at 1 o'clock, so that's angled. And then this plug has a place in the back to actually connect to. So once you plug it in, watch the screen. All right, so the only way to get to this screen here is to actually have the stitch regulator plugged in. Notice you have both for a straight stitch and a zigzag. We've got two modes here we're going to work through. BSR is the abbreviation for Bernina stitch regulator, and we do have a way to have it give us an alarm if we want it to help us keep in track. I'll show you. This light will sometimes turn red, indicating, oh my gosh, you're going too fast, I can't keep up with you. This is one way to have actually a beeping sound come on with it as well. Stitch 40, or foot number 42, that is the number of the Bernina stitch regulator. And since we put the straight stitch throat plate on, let's go ahead and tell the machine we did so, and it will make sure that we don't accidentally pick the zigzag. Notice that when I did, it just keeps it as a straight stitch, so it's not going to zig or zag and break a needle. Our feed dogs are down because it is already yellow in that regard. And the stitch length starts off at 2.0. You do have that ability to change it all the way up to 4 and all the way down to 1. And I'll show you some of those things that will make a difference there. So we'll just leave it at 2 to start off with. All right, straight stitch throat plate is on. Again, pick your thread of choice. Another thing that I do use a lot is quilting gloves. So that does help me actually be able to move the fabric a little bit easier. So find what works for you. And this is something that will take some practice, but when you go to learn how to do free motion quilting designs, you need to explore outside your boundaries here. Go take some online classes, take some classes where you live. There's going to be master machine quilters everywhere you turn, and they will teach you a variety of motifs, way to explore and expand. I also have a variety of teachers I watch, and then that way I learn. I mean, I have to practice too, but we are here to learn how the stitch regulator works specifically. So one thing is the last thing I did use the thread cutter. So my bobbin thread is very short. So if I was to do the traditional way of taking and bringing up my bobbin thread, I'm going to lower that foot down, and I'm holding on to the needle thread now. I can take a stitch with my foot control, or I could also push the needle up and needle down button here. So down and then up. And as I pull up, it's very, very short, but you can see I can get a hold of that and pull that bobbin thread up. That's just so I don't have to fish it out later. And I'll come back and position my needle directly over where I took that actual stitch. Okay, so between our two things, let's start with mode 2. And I want you to do the same if this is completely new to you. Mode 2, or BSR 2, is not using your foot control on the floor, but actually using this green start-stop button to start and stop the stitch regulator. Now, here's the deal. When you push it, nothing happens. But if I touch and hold it, it will take a stitch, and there's going to be a red light that is shining through your stitch regulator and allowing it to sense the fabric. Now, this short stitch length is going to feel like it's really tiny. That's why, depending on your thread thickness, you can adjust that. Now, so that means that as I go and stop, it stops when I stop moving the fabric, and the needle is up. If I want to turn it off, I'm going to reach up and touch the start-stop button. That means that the needle's going to sink down. Actually, the foot has popped up a little bit. I can move or adjust my hands. And then when I'm ready, I can touch that button again. Remember, you need to push it for just like an extra long second. Once that needle comes up, then you're ready to move the fabric. So if I go slow or I go fast, you can hear the machine going slower or faster based on my hand movement, which is why the stitch regulator is so cool. Now, if I pause and I stop moving the fabric and I'm trying to think, okay, where do I want to go? That type of thing. If I wait for about a good 7 seconds, right now the red light of the stitch regulator has turned off and the needle is up. So when I go to move it, nothing's going to happen. That's because you delayed too long, and for safety, it turns off that sensor and says, okay, she doesn't know what she's doing. Let's go ahead and stop. And then you'll just have to go ahead and start it again. So I'm going to stop sewing. Keep one hand on the fabric at all times. Reach up, touch the on-off button. Now I'm going to make my stitch length longer. I'm going to turn it up to 3. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and touch the start-stop button. And I'm going to have to move my fabric a little bit more to get it started because the stitch length is longer. Notice the difference. So I would use a longer stitch length on a bigger area, meaning a bigger pattern, something I want to get done faster. So that is something that you can always kind of do there, is make the stitch length based on what you're actually working with. Now, one thing I want to do, I'm going to take it back to a stitch length of 2. Let's talk about going too fast. So let's go ahead, we'll turn it back on. See that red light? It was blinking at me. And it was when I was moving it so fast that it could not keep up with a stitch length of 2 millimeters. And I do have some stitches that are a little bit longer than I need. What that's going to do is kind of help train you to slow down within its available range for that stitch length. So if you're a faster quilter, you just need to hurry up and get stuff done. That longer stitch length is your key to getting going faster, because you can get more stitches before it will beep at you and say, hey, slow down, I can't keep up, meaning keeping all the stitches the same length. So again, part of it is just practice. Like when you start and stop, sometimes people say they get a little, feel like they're a little jerky. That definitely is just kind of part of practice. Like once I get started here, I'm going to go ahead and just start slowly so I can get that first stitch taken. And then go from there. All right, so let's talk about mode 1, BSR 1, or Bernina Stitch Regulator 1. So I'm going to just touch the 1 on the screen. That's all I've changed. But now I'm going to be using the foot control as my start-stop button. The start-stop button, turned it on, and then you had to use a finger to turn it off. Turn it on, turn it off, turn it on. But now what I'm going to do, you'll notice my hands never move from the fabric. I'm going to go ahead and step on my foot control, but it doesn't matter what speed I actually am running it. So as I go ahead and stitch, if I don't move my fabric, my needle is actually going up and down. Those can be some locking stitches. But as I move it, I have to keep my foot on the foot control to continue to keep the machine sewing. But it is still based on how fast I move my hands or the fabric here. And as soon as I want to stop, I just take my foot off the foot control and it immediately puts the needle in the down position, holding it. So if you're doing a lot of more intricate work, you'll probably like the mode 1, the BSR 1, to be able to keep your hands on the fabric at all times. Then when you are ready to end your stitching, just let the needle go up and down a few times. That will lock it, and then you can use your thread cutter if you like to use that, and let those pull to the back side. So that's actually really, very cool. All right, so once again with tension, if you need to adjust your tension based on your threads that you're working with, you can do all of that from this screen as well. Now, I do want to go ahead and show you how to use the zigzag part of the stitch regulator. But before I do that, I have to actually change that throat plate back to the zigzag throat plate. So we'll just kind of do that. Okay, a little easier to do without gloves, but we'll do that. Okay, and we'll need to take that limitation off our screen. Okay, zigzag. This is going to look a little bit different, almost a little bit more free form here. So I'm still in mode 1, so I'm using the foot control. And if I can remind you, if you've ever done anything with calligraphy, so you remember with the calligraphy pen, if you go back and forth, side to side, that will give you more of a line. If you go up and down, you get more of a column. So that's actually how this is going to look. Little red light came on saying I was going too fast. So this zigzag, you can make it any width or any length that you want. But what you probably find this more useful for is a little bit more in the art quilt world. A little texturing, variegated thread is beautiful on this. Go around some raw edge applique. Lots of choices for that, but that is something that you probably just need to experiment on and give it a try. Don't forget, you can put a double needle in there and really have some fun with that. Try out some different variegated threads and different combinations, different lengths, and around different areas. So my homework for you is to just go ahead and practice, but the stitch regulator is really easy to use. Plug it in. It's like having training wheels that keep you always balanced and nice, even stitches, and you're going to look really good really fast. It's going to kind of springboard you into a more professional looking quilting, keeping those stitches nice and even. You just have to work on the paths that you're going to take.